All right, we're gonna get started for the Wednesday, November 20th, 2024, Norton School Committee meeting. First thing first, pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business here is everyone get a chance to review the minutes from our November 6th meeting. Oh, sorry. And then if Norton Media and Norton Public Schools are recording, if anyone else is recording, please just let us know. Sorry. Now we'll go to the approval of the November 6th minutes. Everyone get a chance to review?
Yep.
I will entertain a motion. So
Second.
all those in favor?
Okay.
Before we go to the warrants, just wanted to reach out into the crowd here. Representative Michael Chasen from Foxborough, Norton, in Mansfield. He's obviously Norton's split district, so Stephen Howard also won his election, but Michael Chasen's our new rep. So you want to come up, say a few words? More than one?
Yeah,
Wherever you're able, I guess.
Yeah, real brief. Just wanted to introduce myself, Mike Chasen, your new state rep here. Jay Barrows had the seat for 18 years. He's retiring. We ran our campaign. We won. And I just wanted to extend a hand, say that I'm here. And I know Nick has my personal contact info. If you want to share it, that's fine. But if there's anything I can do in the future, please feel free to reach out. And I'm looking forward to working with everybody here in Norton, and I'm excited to get going.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats. Sherry warrants.
I reviewed and approved the following warrants: school expense warrants, November 6, 2024, $458,569.04. School payroll warrants, October 31st, 2024, $1,140,788.21. I wish to enter them into public record.
Thank you. New rep update.
Good evening, everyone. From the GCS, the students at the GCS are looking forward to a Drummers Day assembly. It's Friday with our music teacher, Mr. Place, to learn more about percussion instruments. A parent will be joining us as a performer during the assembly, and there is rumored to be Mr. Barrett will also be joining with electric guitar. Our Little Lancers are organizing and inviting parents and families to join us for our family feast next Tuesday. There are 2 sessions planned to include both AM and PM Little Lancer classrooms. We are looking forward to focusing on gratitude this month as part of the Purposeful People program through Character Strong. One way to think about gratitude is choosing to appreciate the people and things in our lives. Practicing gratitude can increase our well-being and even our happiness.
From the Hay, next Wednesday, our PTO will be hosting Anything But a Backpack Day, which was so creative and fun last year. Prizes will be awarded, which will include hashtags and coins from the book vending machine. Judging will be done again by our amazing SRO, Sergeant Janet. Students have done a great job with PBIS, earning hashtags galore, where we have already handed out 170 books for their excellent behaviors. This month's PBIS challenge has been hallway behaviors, where our students earn feathers for an incentive. All students and classes have done incredibly well with improving hallway behaviors and are all in line to receive this month's incentive. Great job. We have done close to 130 good news calls of the day so far. The books are just flying out of the vending machine. We thank the Unlikely Story and Plainville for sending us a box of books for free to continue our work with reading and how we utilize our sensational book vending machine. We can't thank them enough for the donation and appreciate all donations. One facet of IMTSS, Tier 2 interventions for students behaviorally, has been very successful again this year with our check-in and check-out system of points. Students have been earning throughout their day. Students on the CI/CO system have been doing so incredibly well. We're supposed to be better this year. And at this point, we've had many positive conversations with students and families about the importance of good attendance. And from Mr. Higgins from the LG, we had our fun run recently and reached our goal of raising $20,000. The funds will be used by PTC to support enrichment at LGN. The kids and families all had a blast on that day. That's all from us. Thank you.
Questions? Good. Opening of school remarks with Mr. Hayward.
Yeah, and principal, that's
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, just make sure I got how that works. Okay. Welcome, thanks for having us come out. Honestly, I have to say, as everyone knows, I'll just make it brief. Very challenging start to the school year, to say the least. I was very pleased with how well the staff came together and everyone came together, but I couldn't really talk about the start of the school without mentioning that. But this is going to focus on the positives, which we've had many. So we had 540 students come. We welcomed them how we usually do back in September. This is our staff picture at the end of June. Staff always turns over year to year. And during COVID, we instituted, just to try to bring back some of our traditions that we lost, taking a full staff picture. So that's how we ended. Most of us came back in those same roles. But we really got going even in the summertime. The Norton Police Department, the SROs, ran a youth police academy, and you people might have seen them around town. It actually made it onto the news. And we had a state police helicopter land just out back here for the students. And most recently, a lot of these students participated in the Veterans Day Parade. So kind of got going in the summertime, which was really fun. And Norton Middle School's even active all summer with our summer programs and so on. So we're up and running pretty quick. Clubs and activities, big piece of the school here. Many of you heard about the Common Core. This is the uncommon core, the uncommon parts of our curriculum that really make our school interesting and fun to be at, teach at, and come to. So we have 16 different clubs that are offered. Currently, there are 14 running because drama starts late, woodworking the second half of the year. We have like double sessions on that. Here's stuff from one of our clubs, the birdhouses, things like that, some club members. PBIS, just like the Hay School, very successful. That rolled up here well. Marty does a great job sending the kids ready and prepared to meet expectations and face them. We have our system kind of looks a little bit different with the loss of the Dean of Students. We kind of pushed it out to the teams themselves, and they've been doing a great job. Again, reinforcing our core values of being kind, respectful, responsible, and being better, which stands for kind of doing your best. Mr. Goldstein, also in charge of school expectations and helping people meet those, and he's heavily involved. One of the cool things we added to the school this year was creative design, kind of addressing the loss of our art program, which was due to the budget. We had to create a class kind of for a filler for our small sixth grade group, kind of balance the schedule and make sure. Mr. Kramer is teaching the first half of the year, and very early on, because the loss of the art program does hurt, and everyone in this room, I'm sure, and even watching, knows that's something that we didn't want to do. But how do we infuse creativity, the arts, and engagement through all of our classes? Mr. Kramer, we came up with this creative design course, and this young man came up to me. They were so proud. This was early on at the start of school. He designed a pencil holder to hold his pencil in his hat. And then we challenged him, and then a day or two later, he came back and he had the carpenter's pencil version. So that's been really great. And this is some people outside doing some hands-on science activities. And again, grade 6 loves coming up and having the lab sciences and so on. This was our therapy dogs. They've been coming to the school. This has been a fantastic experience. They're coming back now twice a month. So we started that kind of in response to supporting our community around the tragedy that occurred. And then we've continued that practice. And Ms. Musto here has just been fantastic. And this is her son, who's a senior at the high school. And he's come down as a handler also.
And actually, sorry, but that was Maya who's here tonight. That was Maya's civics project. As a
Oh, okay. Oh,
sophomore.
Maya's here. Yeah, she came out that day
And,
too.
so, yeah.
Yeah, she came out that day too, which is great. It's fun. And you saw how the kids respond. It's just, again, being so late in the cycle of the start of school reports, we've been able to have a lot of cool events. We had our big Halloween tradition that continues, gets a lot of staff involved. Here's Seven Purple, like the Karate Kid. And then here one is my favorite was this one right here, the Limu Emu. So that was good. And then we actually had an election, obviously back in 2020. We couldn't do this because we didn't have school. We worked with the town clerk, which was great. And new civics teachers, Mr. Ben Carr and Colleen Jenkins, who came down from the high school as part of kind of our movement of staff that we had. and they actually ran mock elections. They went over all the ballot questions for the town, and then the whole school voted for the elections themselves. And Trump won with 63% of the school vote. But it was really cool. The town clerk allowed us to use those things where the people actually vote. So they had the kind of the whole experience. And besides the presidential election, the biggest thing was they wanted to end MCAS, question 2. So no surprise. And that was clearly 68 students wanted to keep it, making no change. And 365 wanted to end it as a requirement. Again, more clubs and activities. Our Rubik's Cube Club around Veterans Day. Again, going late in the cycle, we had a nice advantage because we've had all these things come up. They did that out of Rubik's Cube, and then that was around Halloween. That's Mrs. Bridges' group. Yeah. And then these are more of our clubs that are just running. Norton Middle School, kind of like a miniature high school in some ways, but we have all our athletics. These are our fall teams. They finished their seasons. These are the win-loss records. Again, all very, very good records. Volleyball was just fantastic. They had the biggest turnaround this year. I think they won maybe a single game last year. And then they went to 8-4 this year. We had a dig paint day, and the atmosphere in the new gym floor, we did a lot to make sure that that got done. It looks fantastic if you haven't been down there. And we're looking forward to our basketball season starting the Monday after Thanksgiving. So middle school sports start early. And then we had a unified sports team, which I get to be part of because I drive the bus, which is awesome. But we actually included 5th grade this year. So we pulled up 5th grade. We've had a great little partnership going with them, and they've brought some athletes and buddies and a coach up. So that continues, and their basketball season starts in February. Sharon?
Nicely done.
I wasn't gonna forget that
Done.
because
I was
knew
waiting.
you were like this. You were ready to jump. Come on, jump,
I
come
was
on.
very, very.
Ready to go. Ready to go.
I'm so proud.
So we've got a middle school hockey team. Middle school hockey team here that competes, and we get updates from Mrs. Emerson. Will give us email updates, and we get to read those on the announcements and so on. And so a good group of kids there. And then we're on to Thanksgiving. So that's kind of the report. Any questions?
Any questions? Comments?
Curiosity, I know boys volleyball at the high schools in the spring, is that gonna happen at the middle school too? or-
Not right now. Out of the 14 teams in the Massasoit League, we only have 7 competing even in the girls volleyball. We do have some co-ed aspects of that. A couple of teams did have like co-ed setups. But I don't see us moving to that anytime too soon.
Are there any other sports that you can introduce? Like, how does that? I know early on, the Massasoit only had like 2 or 3 offers.
Yeah, when 11 years ago, they only had basketball. So, and then you were a big part of the soccer program, obviously, and that got going. On the horizon, I don't believe we have any other sports coming up other than unified stuff. We might expand some unified opportunities, but that's about it. And, unified right now is run through the Massasoit.
Stuff. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you very much. Next up, Student Spotlight Excellence Awards by Dr. Rand.
I think this is becoming like a place center. It's a really good feeling.
All right, well, we've tried to do a student spotlight the last couple meetings, and honestly, it's my goal to do something. But we don't want me standing here, not here.
Can we just shut off Bill Belichick?
Okay, that was easy. I would like to be able to do a student spotlight at every school committee meeting, just because I think it's very easy for us as a school committee and sometimes the administrative team to get stuck in the weeds of all the challenges that we have and the big responsibilities of a school budget and, everything else that goes along with it. But it's really important for us to remember why we do these things and the importance of our students in our schools and to celebrate all the amazing things that they do, on a daily basis. So I have 5 awards to give out tonight. And these students actually don't know why they're here. One of my friends, Jacob Barry, said, "Why am I coming back?" And so I said, "Oh, that's a secret. You'll have to wait until you get here." So I have 5 awards tonight to hand out. And I'm actually going to start with the Mass Association of School Superintendents. It's the Award for Academic Excellence. And this award is going to Jacob Barry. So Jacob, come on up. Now, what I'm going to make each of you do is I'm going to have you come up and I'm going to have you stand here while I read about you. So everyone can see and hear what an awesome, awesome kid you are. So turn and face the audience, Jacob. And everyone else get ready. These are some lengthy bios. So just give me a minute and my eyes are starting to get old. So it might take me a second. So Jacob is a very highly motivated, ambitious, and responsible young man with an unquestionable work ethic. He is in the process of completing a highly rigorous program and has taken a multitude of honors and AP courses. Jacob has been able to maintain a 4.8 GPA and is currently ranked first in his graduating class. Jacob's academic success has allowed him to be on the highest honor roll consistently. He is a member of the National Spanish Honor Society, at which he is also the president. Jacob was the 2024 recipient of the Academic Award for Excellence in Science and History. In 2022, Jacob earned the Academic Achievement Award in Business, and he has been the class president for all 4 years. However, his leadership skills go beyond the classroom as he utilizes these skills within his role in the Boy Scouts. Jacob not only values education, but he has been a valuable student voice in the community and student government. He is a student that others strive to emulate and has been a positive role model for his peers. I'm very proud to present the Certificate of Academic Excellence from the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents to Jacob Barry. Congratulations. Family want to come up and take a picture with Jacob as well? Jacob is also on my Superintendent Advisory Council. We meet 3 or 4 times throughout the course of the year, and I ask them questions about the things that matter to them. They give me some advice on issues that are going on in the district, and then we also eat pizza, which is fun for everybody involved. Thank you, Benson. Congratulations, Jacob. Great. All right, so now I am going to present 2 awards. These are the National School Development Council Awards, and there are 2. So first, I am going to call up Zoe Santos. Come on up. All right, so Zoe is an exceptional student whose passion, humor, and caring nature have left a memorable mark on our school community. As a dedicated student with a love for mathematics, Zoe has set her sights on pursuing a major in accounting. Zoe's academic journey is a testament to her determination. She has consistently pushed the boundaries of her education by enrolling in rigorous AP and honors courses during her time at Norton High School. This year, Zoe is taking AP Computer Science, AP Calc, AP Economics. Zoe also earned the prestigious Presidential Award of Academic Excellence in both business and math, as well as the AP Scholar with Distinction Award earlier this year. These distinctive honors are a reflection of Zoe's academic excellence. In addition, Zoe has been part of 8 honor societies and was even named vice president of the Honors Spanish Society. Beyond the classroom, Zoe is a natural leader and an inspirational figure among her peers. As the captain of the Norton High School soccer team, indoor track, and outdoor track teams, she embodies the spirit of teamwork and perseverance. So Zoe, congratulations. I'm excited to present this to you. There you go. Congratulations. Would you like to come up and take a picture as well? Right, of course.
All right.
Okay, The second recipient of the National School Development Council Award is Nora Watrous. I actually have two awards for Nora tonight because she was also an AP Scholar with distinction. However, she was not able to make it that night because she had a commitment with, I believe, volleyball. Is that
Volleyball,
correct?
that's right, volleyball.
Yeah, so I'm going to read Nora's bio and then I'm actually going to present her with both awards. So we figured we knew you were coming back, so we would hold on to it. All right, Nora is a motivated and diligent student, constantly pushing herself to achieve her best. Her ambition and conscientious nature are evident in everything she undertakes, both in and out of school. Her dedication is not only recognized by her family, but also admired by peers and teachers alike. Nora's natural leadership skills shine through in her roles, such as serving as the varsity captain of the NHS track and field team. Her long-term goal is to become a biomedical engineer, and she is determined to advance medical science. Nora has embraced challenges throughout her high school career by enrolling in various advanced placement courses, including AP Calc, AP Computer Science, AP Psych, and AP Spanish. She has a particular aptitude for mathematics, which is demonstrated by her receipt of the prestigious Rensselaer Medal in 2024 for excellence in extracurricular endeavors. For outstanding achievement in math and science. Beyond her academic achievements, Nora has excelled in her extracurricular endeavors, holding leadership positions such as Vice President of the Math Honor Society and Historian for the National Honor Society. And it doesn't say this in here, but Nora also competed in a computer science challenge in which she and some of her peers designed an app that was really, really awesome and recognized for computer science as well. So I'm going to give both the National School Development Council Award to Nora and the AP Scholar with Distinction Award to Nora. You get them both in one fell swoop. Congratulations. If they want to come up and take a picture as well. Congratulations, Nora. Okay. The Superintendent's Award of Excellence is going to Maya O'Connell. Come on up. All right. Maya is an inquisitive, responsible, and driven student who is interested in majoring in finance or business with the goal of becoming a successful businesswoman. She has many leadership roles during her time at Norton High School, including president of the National Honor Society, vice president of the English National Honor Society, elected treasurer of Student Council, and named captain of the varsity girls swim team. She is no stranger to being a leader and takes pride in leading and helping others. Maya has also made a strong impact on the Norton school community by bringing therapy dogs into our schools. Her program has changed the school culture in such a positive way, and I know that she's going to go on to do great things in her college career. So congratulations, Maya, the Superintendent's Award of Excellence. Thank you. You're very welcome. You want to come up as well and do a pic? Thank you. Congratulations. All right, so those awards are awards that we do every year, but this year we had something special happen. And I would like to recognize James McKay. James, come on up. James was actually recognized this year as a National Merit Scholar semifinalist, which is really wonderful and incredible asset to you, James. And it's not something we see all the time here in Norton, so it's definitely important for us to recognize that. So James is a compassionate, academically curious young man who has a strong passion for math. He enjoys an academic challenge and has taken the most rigorous classes available to him each year. He started taking AP and college courses during his sophomore year and has increased the number of AP courses he takes each year, culminating in taking 4 this senior year. James has won many academic awards throughout his high school career, most notably being a National Merit Scholarship semifinalist. In addition, James has won the President's Award for Math every year, demonstrating his strong natural ability for math, as well as the President Award for Computer Science in 2022, Spanish in 2022, and Science in 2023. James has gone above and beyond our school's required 40 hours of community service by completing around 200 hours since the start of high school. Did you know it was that many? This past summer, he was a co-lead counselor for ages 6 to 8 at Camp Sunshine, a camp for students with life-threatening illnesses and their families, where he helped coordinate activities, played games, and supervised the children when they were not around their families. As an officer in 3 honor societies, James has gained invaluable leadership experience. He is the webmaster for the Science Honor Society and started the Science Fact of the Day for their Instagram account. In part to help his own curiosities, he has researched and posted a Science Facts of the Day every day of the school year and hopes these facts inspire others to research their own curiosities. So congratulations to you, James. I think it's really important that we recognize this incredible honor. So congratulations. Is your family want to come up as well? Thank you. Congratulations.
Excellent. Phenomenal job. It's always great. I think Jen kind of bringing in the student spotlight kind of series, I guess, if you will, has been awesome for us. I know we kind of sometimes get bogged down with the policies and procedures and budget and all that non-fun stuff, watching our students, actually succeed. And the other thing that's even more impressive is what they can do in the classroom is outstanding. What else they can do in the community and like the community service hours and kind of how they can affect so many people, just outside their academic thing. It's really definitely special to see. Anything else? Awesome job. Thank you very much. If you guys
Thanks
want to
all
leave,
for coming.
you're
We
more than
really
welcome to leave.
appreciate it. Congratulations. We're all so proud of you.
Should have snuck out. All right, next up is discussion and vote to increase school substitute rates. Steph.
So like so many districts around us, we are having a challenging time getting some substitutes, especially our schools that have many leads that are happening. So in an effort to stay competitive, and to be in a stronger advocate pool, we're looking to increase the substitute rates just slightly. So what you have in front of you in the box in the light pale purple is what we are proposing. So that would be for our daily substitute, we're hoping to increase it $15 a day, so from $100 to $115. On our long-term substitute, it is the same thing, $100 for $115 for 6 weeks. And then we usually increase it by 20. So we'd like to then increase it 20 again to $25 a day, $125 a day. Our permanent building substitute, which those are the ones that we just brought back. That would be from, instead of $110 a day, it would be $115 a day, and then we would keep the $135 a day after. And we're going to have no change recommended for the retired Norton public school teacher returning. And below that in the yellow is just some comparables that we have in surrounding districts.
So as I know the committee knows, this is not a new conversation. We are just having a very, very difficult time finding subs. So if we don't have subs in the school, we have administrators covering, we have teachers covering during their prep period, which is a financial obligation for the district as well. We're hoping that perhaps by, increasing just a little bit, we'll be able to get people out. The other thing that I think it's important that I share with the committee and maybe anyone who's watching at home is that we would love people, if people could submit a whole day to substitute teaching, we would take half day people, we would take a few hours here and there. And obviously the rate would be prorated to, the hours that are worked. I know that we've had conversations with some parents that are, I couldn't do the whole day at JCS because my child gets out of school and then I need to bring them to activities. But like, if you could do 9 to 1, 9 to 2, we would love that. So we are always looking for substitutes. And as you know, it's hard to estimate when we're going to have leaves. We have a number of leaves right now at one of our elementary schools, all for things that are wonderful and exciting for the very most part, but we've had a really difficult time finding people.
It seems like we have this conversation at least every couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to wonder if at some point we need to stop throwing money at the problem. Maybe it's just people don't do it. Because I mean, looking at some of these other districts, I mean, we're slowly creeping up the ladder. And I remember, I think the first time we had this conversation, I think we were the lowest.
Mhm.
Now we're gonna be just about the highest. So I'm curious to see if we make this change, what's this going to look like 6 months from now? And is it really a money issue or is it really just people don't want to do it?
Well, guys,
So I think we just need to be cautious of that.
you've heard me joke that we need to do substitute teaching as your civic duty and not just jury duty. Because I think number one, at least you get people in the door. And number two, it would give people who are not in the education world a really, important perspective on the reality of schools today. But I don't disagree, Dan. We have a very difficult time.
I think part of it too, I mean, I know when my kids were in elementary school, I was at home with my kids. And so there were a group of us that were home with our
Yeah.
kids. And so there was a, cry out for help that we needed subs. And so my trust was like, well, just hanging around all day anyway. So waiting for the kids to get out of school, we might as well try.
Yeah.
And, I don't have an education background. I was in healthcare. And it was awesome. It really was. I think if you have the time, my kids obviously loved seeing me around the school at that time when they were so little. But I just wonder if there's more people working, like if there's not as many people home anymore because of the state of where we're at, just financially, that may be part of the problem. It may not be that people don't want to, it may be people that just don't, they
They're
can't.
not able to.
Right. They have their own jobs and responsibilities, you know what I mean? So it's tough.
Just a point of clarification, your proposed, it says FY 25, is that supposed to be FY 26?
No, we would ideally like to start doing this,
ASAP.
rolling out as soon as we could.
So that leads me to my next question. How are we affording this?
Our subline is one that's never always fully funded at the beginning of the year. That's something that was taken a lot out of school choice. However, during the course of the year, we have, for example, a longtime staff member that's retiring in June. We have that person's salary budget for the entire year. We were not aware that they were going to retire mid-year when we set the budget. So that goes into a savings for things like this to backfill subs. Same with, teachers that are on maternity leave, they may decide that they're not going to come back. I'm having my baby in April and I'm just going to stay. Those types of things, that's where we typically fund the remainder of the subline.
If the increases too are not substantial, like if you look at the permanent building sub, if I just pretend it was a whole 180 days, which it's not now, it was only like under $500. That was like the entire school year. So that's why they're very small increments. The highest would be a daily sub if they were the whole 180 days, which wouldn't be because then it wouldn't be a sub, but that's a little over 2,000.
I guess another question, maybe this was public college. What have we asked for requirements? I know Sherry said she didn't know educate, but As long as they pass, I assume, Corey check.
You need a clean core.
That's what it.
Yeah.
So it was, when I was doing it, you had to have a bachelor's degree. That's what I was told. Oh, not anymore. Okay.
No.
All right.
Because ultimately, even with the lower requirements, we really still can't find anybody. So, it used to be, and you know, it's so funny because a lot of our Norton High School graduates will come back and sub.
Mhm.
And it used to be that you needed to have completed 2 years of college in order to be eligible. But we're not even there anymore. That requirement went out the window. I'm gonna say probably 4 or 5 years ago, I would guess. It could have been prior to COVID.
I think it was.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was as well, just thinking about, you know, all of a sudden, COVID was 5 years ago. So those have, but obviously you need a clean core, you need the clean fingerprints. Those are things that all of our substitutes go through, those background checks.
I think it's important too that people know, like, when I was first asked to do this, and I was not on school committee, just to be clear.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to
No, you
think
couldn't
that
have
I was
it.
like, you know, yeah. it
You
was-
still ran after
I know, it was before I was on school committee. But, you know, when I was first asked, you know, if I would be open to it, it's super intimidating, right? When you're not a teacher and you're like, you want me to be in charge of 20-something kids? Like, I love being with my kids, but all of those, I'm not a teacher. I didn't know what to do. But it's important to know that the teachers have that sub plan. So it was super easy to just follow their plan for the day. And if you're in elementary, I mean, it was, you know, it was definitely easy to follow. And you have other teachers that would always pop in to make sure you were, you know, good and check in on you to make sure, you know, everything was going okay. So just in case anybody's watching and they're nervous that, like, well, I was never a teacher. The sub plans are so, you know, step by step, what you need to do, where you need to go, you know, and honestly, it was a lot of fun. It really was. If anyone's thinking about it, it really was fun to be in the classroom with sometimes my own kids and their friends, and they get the biggest kick out of it.
Of
So,
course they did.
yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of subbing at one, when I was in college too, so even like Wheaton, Bridgewater State, like college students are perfect for it, especially if you're in the educational field. It's a great lead in to what real life is and not what college is
Yes.
teaching you,
Yeah.
because it's very different. But yeah, I mean, like I think that's kind of what we're looking to do. I mean, personally, you know, moving it up $15 a day doesn't sound like much, but if we're struggling to get subs, how many subs do we have a day in our schools on average? Roughly.
How many subs do we need? Or
Need.
how many subs do we have? Those are very different answers to different questions, right? I would say that, you know, on an average day, we need 20 to 25 subs
For the
district. For the district.
So I mean, if you just do. some of
That's
those-
more than I thought.
I'd say that's an average day. And of course, you have days where you might need 6. You
Yeah.
have days where you might need 36. But it really,
And then
and there's no predicting any of it.
that's not including the permanent building subs.
No, the permanent building subs, I believe are all but one, I think are hired and in. Yep.
And then I'm sorry, when you were going through all of this, did you say that if we don't get a sub and there's a teacher out, right? How does that impact the other teachers, I guess? Like, do they get you don't get lunch today, and then they get compensated, or like, how does that?
So a teacher would always get their lunch.
Well,
They-
like,
Please don't stop
whatever.
that.
Sorry, I didn't say that, like,
They don't get
but I'm just curious, like, how that works.
So it really, honestly, it really depends on the school, right? Because covering an elementary classroom for a day versus covering a high school class for a few periods, the dynamics are a little bit different. One thing that Mr. Barrett has been doing at the JCS is taking a group of kids out for extra recess. So you might take a 3rd grade class and a 1st grade class and a 2nd grade class because the music teacher's out for the day. So he has been giving teachers their prep that way and you know, coming up with creative ideas. At the middle school, Mr. Hayward and Mr. Goldstein do a huge amount of coverage. And so depending on the number of staff that are out, that might mean bringing, you know, multiple sections of kids to the auditorium, which is the cafeteria. It becomes like an extended study hall because they need some cover. They need adult supervision, and there are only 2 people. Also, at the middle school and the high school, if teachers have a free period, or if they have prep, we try to be as equitable about it as possible and figure out who have we tapped so far. in order, and then they get compensated for missing that prep. So it's in our contract what the rate is and how that's quantified. Other things we might do is we might need to pull a paraprofessional from a classroom. We might need to pull a reading specialist so they don't see kids that day. But it's really difficult to, especially, as the students are younger, it's really difficult to manage a school where you don't have the appropriate number of people that it takes. Someone's gonna look that up.
I'm just wondering, like, if we're increasing this by $15, like what the offset would be versus if you had a teacher compensated, like what? Like, is it kind of a wash basically then? Like if we have a teacher compensated for their losing their prep or something versus just adding $15.
So
Does that make
about
sense?
$40. It depends on how
Oh.
it affects. And then the paras, it's different if they're doing teacher coverage.
Right.
So it's definitely, they're still getting paid more and.
Yeah.
there's
How do the principals for each building? Let's just say you need an 8th grade science class covered.
Mhm.
You have whatever, 7th grade science teacher who the kids are, that person could come up. Is it required that that person comes up, or is it as simple as like you ask and whoever's like, hey, I'll take the extra shift, I'll put away my professional time or whatever, take it? Like, how does each school do it?
You mean if they don't find a sub? Is that
Correct, yeah, yeah,
So
sorry.
for teacher
Yes,
coverage,
yes.
we try to, take volunteers first. And then if you don't have a volunteer, then you say, hey, I really need you to X. And then the next time they won't go to that person, they'll go to somebody else.
So it's kind of rotating.
It tries to be, it's rotating.
Do some-
And the union's really, understanding about it and, that's why there's language in the contract about it. So it's definitely more expensive to have a teacher cover those classes than it is to have a sub. But, that's one of the things that we talk about every month. That I meet with them. Like sub coverage is really an issue. Yeah, that's important. I mean, this week I reached out to Stonehill, Wheaton, Bridgewater, just to say, hey, we're always looking for substitutes. Even if, you have someone who's interested in education or is interested in math or whatever they're doing. Like, and again, we can do a half day, we can do hourly, but please let them know. We've shared all that information with them this week as well. I spoke with each of the education department heads of those.
Yeah, I am kind of with Dan on this too, because I don't know if it's a money thing, because I feel like
might not?
every single district is, you can see it all over the place, that it's, they're asking for subs. So is everybody too low? Maybe. But like, I don't think we're losing people necessarily because Mansfield's paying $100 a day and so are we. Franklin, like, people aren't going to Franklin for $105 when we can stay in Warren for $100. So like, I don't know if that's, like, I don't know if, like you said, kind
They
of.
might go to Randolph though for 150.
Yeah, I don't know. Would you, if you drive that far, I mean, like, at the end of the day, your gas person, now you're in for $20 and, I mean, I don't know.
I think historically, and I think Sherry can kind of go back on this with me. We were lowest, I think we were like 85 before we ever had this conversation.
60 when I did.
Yeah, so I mean, you could sub 5 days a week and you get a decent paycheck, but like, for example, like if you work at second shift, that's good money if you wanted to come in for a few hours or something like that, or I mean, I think it's worth it talking to some of the college kids that are coming back from winter break.
And they come. And that's great. We do have a lot of college kids that come back in December and in May. The other 8 months.
I mean, I guess it's just something else we have to try and see if it's going to make a difference. In my opinion, I think it's more of a workforce issue than a pay issue. I think, like Sherry mentioned, it's a little bit different of a working dynamic than years ago, with, more 2-income families.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we just probably have to try and keep an eye on it and that.
I mean, just doing like quick math, again, if we're looking at 20 subs a day for 180 days, it's 3,600 subs for a year. basically increasing it from $100 a day to 115 is give or take $54,000 extra. That's just with the daily sub. When I look at that number, I'm looking at it saying, that is another teacher, that is another program. And I get it, I know it's a struggle, I understand, but like, it just to me, I don't know if it's the solution either. We've done, I think we've raised subs twice since I've been here. This would be now 3, I think. So like, clearly throwing more money just seems to be not fixing what the problem is, but I don't know what the problem, like, how do you fix the problem? Is it just someone goes up to $250 a day and you pray to God you get enough subs? Like, I don't know, you know, but I'm kind of on the same
Civil
page.
service.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. So, I mean,
I think we have to try, and then if we don't, if it doesn't make a difference, if we don't get the subs, we're not putting the money out anyway.
yes,
Right?
but here's my
Right?
thing is,
But
you're still paying additional money. And if it doesn't work, yet again, we've now raised it 3 times in 3
Right.
years, and we've just, you know, again, $54,000 this time. Last time was $42,000. Last time was 60, and now all of a sudden we just increased $150,000 in subs over 3 years, and we're still in the same problem.
Well, that's the thing, I mean, to counter your point, if it's $54,000, it's another teacher spot. But we still, that teacher's gonna be out sick at some point too.
Right.
We're not,
No, I
that's
get-
not going to get us where we need to be and
No,
you know, I mean, I think, you know, if we make the change, we're far more competitive than we have been in the past. I mean, part of me thinks maybe just getting the word out somehow and you know, have each building administrator put it in their newsletter and say, you know, really just push it out there, because there's some people that one probably don't know it's a decent day's work. It's probably not all that hard. I've never done it. And, you know,
Oh, it's not easy.
no, but it's a lot. So, but my point
That's
being
great.
is, if people don't know about the opportunity, they're not. Get the opportunity, and maybe they find that they like it. Maybe they do like it, and maybe they come back every day. You know, I mean, I just think that we have to try and get if we're gonna spend the money, now we need to get the word out there somehow that
Agreed.
we're competitive for something.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, like, to me, I think we already are. We're with Mansfield, we're with Franklin, we're with Easton. You know, Taunt's paying a little bit more, that's even bigger of a challenge when you're there, you know? I mean, we're right in line with most of these districts, with the exception of what, Randolph, you know? I mean, I would more or less look at something like retired MPS, do we make that like any retired teacher in Massachusetts ever? I mean, you know, and we bump that up. To me, it's just increasing again, it's not, we've increased it twice. We haven't solved our issue.
So okay, so last year we increased the sub rate for the nurses. I think Joe was here when we went from 85 to 100.
Yeah.
That sound right?
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago.
No, I was on, definitely, one of the some.
So
think you
perhaps
were
maybe it was your
nurses,
first
right?
year, Nick?
I don't know.
I think it was the nurses, because we just did the nurses with.
We
the
did
last-
nurses last year at
Yeah.
And
LGM.
then the year before, we did teachers. Didn't me and you come on the same
Yeah.
year?
We did that spring, late that spring, but beginning of that fall. So
So I don't, I mean,
I
that's,
don't know what the reason.
We went from 85 to
Nelson Jones.
we were at 70,
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And we went to 85, I couldn't tell you when.
I think that was early in Joe's career.
Joe was still
We were
here, yeah, Joe was,
way down.
and Joe was still here when we did the 100 and then we did the 175 for the retired MPS.
Did we get a lot of retired MPS to
We do.
actually?
We do.
but like, do you think if we all offered that to
Any retired?
any retired, would like that help? You know, so it's not just Norton, so, hey, if I'm a teacher in Mansfield, looking over here and be like, oh crap, I can get $175 a day. You know, where they're certified is only 125, now maybe you make $50, I don't know. Like, I would look more towards that than just increasing a fee to increase it to hopefully, or this fee, but whatever you want to call it, but just to increase the hope, like that is bad. That's kind of, that's not what we're looking for. We can't increase money right now to hope. We need to increase money. If we're gonna increase money, we gotta make sure we know what we're doing.
So can we do, maybe Benson could put it out on our social channels? Get him a graphic or do a graphic or something with the information and put it out on social so that other people are seeing it, but you know, like, I forget if it was Nick or Dan said, you know, put something in the newsletters at each school.
Yep.
So that parents see it, because you may have parents who are interested in doing
Nobody
it.
reads my newsletter.
I was like, I definitely read this in yours, and I'm pretty sure Mr. Barrett put it in his too.
Brian put it in last year.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
Brian
Brian's
and
been very active.
Courtney McClellan,
Yes.
who's our HR person, they actually run, probably I'd say, probably done 2 or 3 since
Yeah.
you came here.
Good
They
too.
do substitute workshops where you can come and learn about being a substitute, walk through the day, what does this look like? And then they, you know, basically give you the application to fill out right then and there,
Right
like,
then.
okay, come on.
And we can fast track another one because we have the presentation, the information set up. So we can get something on the calendar for, the near future.
But, Nick, what were those numbers? You said it was 54.
Yes, this is chicken scratch on my paper. But
Okay.
yes, if I went off, the math I did was 20 subs a day, 180 school days in a year. Sure, it's not that high, but, because first day of school, last day of school, I'm sure
Yeah,
the
I
teachers
think
are
that's
here.
the
but,
highest
you know,
cost.
correct. But 180 days of school gives you 3,600 subs a year. If you did that by $100 a day, you're spending $360,000. If you did it by $115 a day, $414,000, which is a difference of $54,000 by increasing. Now, again, that is not by any means the correct way to do this. You would have to actually look how many long-term subs, have a much
Right.
deeper analysis, but
Right.
Well, I'm just.
just
wondering, like,
increasing.
What? What would like $105 a day? Like, I mean, if we're gonna try and be, I don't know. At least that would be not all the way up to 115. We would be more than a couple.
I don't think 115 is terrible looking at the comps.
Yeah.
I don't think it's terrible.
I think it's.
I don't think it's terrible. I would, trust me, I would like to make this $175 a day, get people here,
I know.
it's not.
So 115, 7-hour workday, it ends up being like 16.
Yeah.
16.40.
Right,
So minimum wage is 15.50.
right. When you look at it that way, it's not that.
Nuts.
I mean, I think if we make this increase, one, we don't look at an increase in the next couple, 3-4 years. And I also think we need to promote it more as well and get that word out there, but I think we need to take a careful look at what everything looks like now at our current rates and what it looks like after this, if it passes, proposed rate. And then we have to drill down and see if it's a staffing issue, like I personally think it is, or is it a money issue? But I think, I don't know how we cure it if it's a staffing issue.
Can we look at the last time we had an increase and then see if like the subs,
Probably got worse.
did we get more? I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Probably got worse.
the last time we had an increase and like, I don't know, is that even, I don't know. Like,
I
could
think
we,
it's hard too with that because I feel like we have more, it seems like we have more, it's just
Sure, it's
such
crazy.
an ebb and
Yes.
flow, you know?
Yes.
So this is seems like one school in particular, they have so many leads right now.
right,
And we were talking about it today. Because principals said that they're on the phone with a couple of applicants, and then he said, I'll call you right back, and then he'll run, check, make sure all the paperwork, and then, oh, no, never mind. Like, they literally cancel on the spot, so it's just hard to gauge that specific.
Another component to think about in terms of like inflation and cost of living adjustments. If the last time we raised was 5 years ago from 85 to 100, going from 100 to 115 seems like a reasonable just approach simply because our, purchasing power isn't what it was 5 years ago.
So this would be me. This is how I would try to solve this problem. One, I would take this daily rate and I would times it by 2.5 every single year. So then every single year, this is meeting the inflation cost of the cost of living. So every year we go up a little bit, or if we do it based on the teacher's rate, whatever that is, if we have a really bad year and administrators and teachers and whatever, we're taking 1%, increase that 1%. That way, this is always changing and it's not just coming back. And we're trying to figure out when's the last time we raised them and, oh, that was 5 years ago, now it's different. The economy gets better. We're never decreasing this. So that to me, that's one. Two, like, again, we just don't know if this is the actual problem. So is it something we can look outside the box and cut me off quickly if I'm going to step out a little bit here? But is this something we can look at in like negotiations in terms of like, hey, teachers, if you don't take a day off of work, we will give you $1,000 stipend in.
I think the only thing we came close to is years ago, we had explored a buyback.
So,
That was
okay,
when Layton was here.
so just
That's kinda getting
if you were
into it.
hired before a certain date in NPS, you had access to sick leave. So at the end of your retirement, if you have X amount of days, you can buy that at a certain, that I believe ended. Gotta look at the contract, but I'm gonna say somewhere between 08 and 2000. So anyone hired after the date no longer has that. So, you're starting to lose those people that have access to that. But I would say that any creative thoughts that we have to work on the sub issue that we have, but it's also people get sick.
No,
People get sick, people have babies, people
kids,
need medical care. And there, so it's similar to the conversation that we've had about the new building. We can't predict certain things. And so this is one of those things, like overtime accounts that the town side has. We just can't predict when people are going to go.
This is essentially our overtime.
This is our overtime. And when people come up against serious medical issues, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of our staff in the best way that we can. And so ultimately, I don't think there's a clear reason, right?
Correct.
It's probably a little bit of money. It's probably a little bit that, number one, more families have two working parents. Not everyone is available to sub. It's a little bit of
people just don't want to work.
people are not able to work. Whatever the rationale may be, we don't know. I mean, the other thing we could do, excuse me, we could do is Christine and I could sit down with principals and see if we could come up with other creative things and leave daily summary as it is. Maybe look at the retiree, maybe look at the long-term sub. You're a long-term sub, your role is different than coming in and today I'm gonna sub in second grade and tomorrow I'm gonna sub in sixth grade and like you're basically there for the day and then you move on. If you're a long-term sub, you're there day in and day out, you're planning, you are potentially doing report cards or doing parent conferences. That's a different role. And so perhaps if you guys aren't sold on this tonight, maybe Christine and I can go back and come up with some creative ideas and meet with the principals and see if we can put something else together for you guys. But I also don't want us to do it just because we feel like we have to.
I mean, I'm not personally against it. I just think it's one of the rare times we throw money at it. It's potentially not going to gain us what we are looking to get. But I mean, I don't mind voting for it tonight, or if we table it and maybe we get a little more information. I don't think we're at mission critical stage where, this isn't going to prevent us from staffing buildings. But out of curiosity, just because you mentioned it, when does a daily sub turn into like a long-term sub? Like, is there a specific, like if a teacher has some mystery illness that they're going to be up for 10 days? Like, is that they're just going to find a daily sub for 10 days? Or
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we'd love to keep the same person in the classroom for those 10 days. But typically, it doesn't occur until someone's going on an extended leave. So someone is having surgery and it's 6 weeks. Typically we try
so
to
it's almost
do,
like a planned absence. Hopefully,
yeah, so usually it's like,
like we know about it.
the way that it works right now is like, if you're, subbing for 6 weeks, like you get the daily rate. If there's anything after that, we move you up to that next level. So, way we do it with our people who are here the entire year, we pay them either as a bachelor's step one or as a master's step one, based on what level of education they have. because they are here for an entire year. They are filling the duties of a classroom teacher. They're planning, they're welcoming kids, they're doing everything. So that's something that we've been doing for a long time. But I think we can put other ideas and thoughts together if you guys are more comfortable with that, or we can vote tonight. So it's really up to you.
I think Benson should come up with a fun TikTok. How great it is to be a Norton sub.
Okay,
And then make it go viral, Benson. No pressure.
Sounds like Sherry wants to start it.
I think you can do it.
I have faith in you.
As a former.
Yeah, as a former sub, yeah, yeah.
Kathleen Starr, she's the
I
president.
know. There's a group of us that did it. I don't know. Maybe just hitting socials. Why not try it? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, like, I don't think like the Lions clubs know about this.
Right, exactly.
I don't think I'm like seeing people.
Right.
I appreciate that Justine started a newsletter.
I swear, I've seen this wildly late. I mean, a lot of
I
not a
don't
lot of
recommend
newsletters
one.
I've been reading, you know?
It's good to know that.
You got one. You got one reader.
You got 1 out of 5. Sorry.
What do we want to do? We want
I feel like I want some more. Yeah, I like that.
to just kind of float it back and see what else we can come up with, big?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, let's revisit it. Turn of the year.
Cool, all right, move on. FY 26 budget process timeline overview.
So this is our budget memo that, you're probably familiar with, that we, send out every year. It's just the dates and our projected timeline for the FY 26 budget. I have already submitted the, templates for the department heads and principal administrators on, November 6th. We're asking for them to be returned to us on Friday, December 6th. And then the following week, Jen and I will be meeting with principals and department heads to go over their report, those budgets and their ideas, for next year. After that, going into the new year, we'll narrow down the recommendations, we'll compile a budget, and then, hopefully on January 22nd, we plan to do our first pass of budget presentation to you guys. And then the next 2 dates are tentative, but they are the February 8th school committee budget workshop, which is Saturday morning. And then February 26th would be our budget hearing and school vote.
Just one quick thing, this is great. Can we do something similar to this that we can send up to the public? In terms of like,
So we actually have an infographic that we shared last year
Yeah.
with the public, which we'll put out again in our upcoming newsletter. It's very similar. It's literally the exact same thing. It's just fun. A little bit more fun.
yeah, and then like, if we could, and I know we need to work on this, but like adding like, if we can add like joint meetings on, we can get obviously those squared away. 2, if we can like add in any public hearings, obviously we have budget hearing on here, and then like add up all the way, like right to town. Because I feel like just, and again, a 1-page sheet that can be, sent out on social media, hey, this is what the budgeting process looks like, here are your dates, here are your times. Then there's no real, not that I say, not an excuse, but like, hey, everything is laid out for the public as well. Also, and it's matching up obviously to our administrators, principals, teachers, so.
So ultimately, we typically don't get information from finance committee and the town side until, a week or 2 before we're expected to be there.
We need to fix that.
So we will, put things together, and I'm sure the town meeting date is set, I don't know.
I think they're voting on it tonight.
Okay, so, but we have the infographic and we'll,
It's tomorrow night that they'll be voting on it.
thank you, Peter.
And then just to, go ahead.
I think the other thing with that timeline is we can, prepare that, work with the other boards, but I think last year it was the example that we could be scrambling to put together a meeting because of, major issues financially that were faced. So, I mean, I think that also needs to be, I would rather overcommit to meetings and cancel them versus not having them. Oh, you didn't have it on your timeline, so, I mean, I think, and I've said this publicly in the past, this is not a shot at our other elected boards by any means. But we kind of got this budget thing down packed. Like, we're very proactive, we take our time, we're very meticulous. And, but we're always overly criticized for, lack of this, and I think that it's.
And I think we're extremely transparent.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think it's, we are given a number by the town's officials and we stick to that number. That's all we can do. We can advocate for different positions as five of us can do, but ultimately it comes down to, we work within the budget we're given and we don't set that number. We just live within our means. So, I mean, I think that's just something to state that, we can be all ready to go and at the last minute, they could say, shave off another percentage.
Or produce 2 budgets.
Exactly. I don't want a repeat of last year because it was entirely too much work and it was entirely too chaotic. And some of the requests were frankly outrageous that we got from some other boards in town.
Well, and I think the important thing for us to remember is that ultimately is the role of the school committee to set the budget. It is not the responsibility of any other board.
I was just about to say that. And I think, I mentioned this to you guys, I think that over the summer at some point. Is there a way, like I know, like we have administrator, principals, budget meetings with superintendent, business administrator. Is there a way, I don't want to be involved more earlier in the process, but can we see what the principals are requesting and then what you guys, I don't want to say a cut, but what you are recommending? They, principal gives like an easy number, $1 million budget. You guys come back and say it's, we only got $700,000 for you. And now it gets to us and it's not a shot against you guys by any means, but we're hearing you. We don't hear from them. So like, I think like we've seen in terms of like putting some of these positions back and whatnot, it's like some of them were a little eye-opening in terms of being like, oh, we didn't realize that position was that important to what we're doing. And maybe we could have done X, Y, and Z, differently before we made those cuts. So like, I guess from our standpoint, I think a second piece of this that would be awesome is like, once you kind of start getting a history of kind of what each school is doing, it breaks it down even further. So you have schools, the 5 schools, you have central administration. I know there's going to be some crossover. It's never going to be perfect. But hey, JCS has gone 3 years in a row at 2.5, 3%, 1.8%. LG is going, 5% to 3% to 2%. Whatever it may be, you can kind of key in on, okay, why did the high school go from 2% to 7% one year? What happened? It gives us a little bit, and hopefully, when we're long gone out of these seats, in 2030, someone can look at this and say, hey, the last 10 years of what's going on, this makes sense. Why is the school jumping? What's going, to me, it's just like we get a number, 30, yeah, it's 35 million. I'm not saying we don't break it down, but here's 35 million, so much money, so involved, it's so deeply thing that we don't see it broken in
Right.
terms of like.
And so that's what we do with them every year. And I think it's really important for you guys to know and for the community to know that there's very little wiggle room in the actual budget itself. 90% of our budget is staff. And so we're having conversations already about like, if you want a new position or you want to advocate that a position comes back, then you need to come up with a creative way to make that happen. That means we're looking at getting rid of something else. Because I don't foresee us having the budget to add back FTEs this year. This is the conversation we had with some of the supplemental funds that we got at fall town meeting. I don't know if we'll be able to sustain all of those positions because we have to look at things really carefully. So we're saying, okay, how can, let's look at this particular thing. How can we do this differently? Is this still needed in 2025? We've been doing it this way for a long time. Is this still the right way to do certain things? So we're having all those conversations. When it comes to curriculum purchases, all of those things go through the Office of Teaching and Learning because we want to make sure that the first grade classroom at GCS and the first grade classroom at LGN have the same resources to work with. And then, in previous iterations, it didn't always happen that way. That was something that I worked with the principals to make sure we were all advocating for the same things. You can't have 2 totally different educational experiences based on where your street address is. And so those are a lot of the things that we do ahead of time. But I also do think it's important for you guys to see, like, are there positions that the principals are requesting and saying, this is something that we really could use? Because it gives you the information you need to be able to go out into the community and to advocate for us. Because we all know that I can advocate as much as I can here. You know, whether it's, you know, at a school committee meeting that 7 people watch, or in my newsletters that Justine reads, or whatever else it might be, it's the message isn't always getting out there. And so we can certainly look at how we share that information with you. I really think it's important.
I really like that. I think it would give a better perspective. I think, at least for myself, I like that idea. And ask the elephant in the room here, but we are in negotiation. So like, how does this process work? I don't, if we're not potentially done by February, like, how does that transpire, you know?
Ultimately, it means that you create a budget, and or depending on what we negotiate, that there are changes that are going to need to be made later in the process. And so I think it's obviously we go into negotiations in a good faith attempt to make sure that we're listening to the, you know, the needs and the requests of the teachers, and that they're doing the same thing on their end. We can look at trends and patterns, but until you have a signed deal, but Christine and I have been doing a lot of that work, Christine especially, looking at trends and patterns across the state, across, you know, similar like districts. But again, until that contract is signed, right, there's a lot of
90% of your budget is something.
Right. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think through you can have an idea with negotiations. But I mean, and ultimately, you know, each side it has to act in good faith. And we're seeing that some of these other districts that are making news, that it sounds like one or both sides is not going in good faith, as we see some more and more of these districts challenging their school committees and their schools to remain open. So, I mean, it's always, I think both sides always kind of have an idea. And I mean, you could always maybe do a 1 year and keep on talking, you know, if that comes down to it. It's always a possibility. I mean, I don't want to say there's endless possibility. There's always ways to, you know, understand that we still need to keep the schools open and funded, you know, with our staff. I don't think, you know, seeing some of these other really challenging districts, I don't think we're gonna have some issue here. But
so the answer to your question is, you know,
That's fine. I didn't know if there was like this is how he usually rolls, and you know, I'd ask. Okay.
what the puncher says best. Okay, right, I mean, yes.
So that January 22nd, is that something that like I think we should probably stick to in terms of like, and then just presenting the budget? Can we just present it by school and then it's a.
what do you mean, sir?
So like this
So
is the
like-
JCS budget, this is the LGN budget.
Correct. Here's JCS, here's LGN, here's central office. I would say there's probably 5 schools central office. That's going to be your main culprits, if you will.
Well, usually I mean, I guess the other thing I think,
I'm trying to understand why we break it down. Up. 'Cause, I mean, we see everything in the line items.
I just think breaking it down to that level gives us the ability to
Well, I
Actually-
mean,
see what is happening.
I think we can do that more so earlier in like, for example, when the administrators submit their budget requests next month, we can just CC them on to a point. I mean,
I would say like, let us clean things up a little bit.
yeah, I mean, I'm just
Because
saying, like,
it's, you know, when we get the original request, it's a lot, it's extremely cumbersome. We need a little bit of time to dive in. The one thing that we could think about doing, and I think the other thing that's important for us to have a conversation about, is like the principals could say, these are our requests over and above level services. Like that might be a good way, like basically, because what we said was like, a level service budget is what we're going to shoot, right? Because ultimately, we want to keep what we currently have right now. That's always the goal. And in a financial situation like we are in our community, we can't say, oh yeah, we want to go for the gold. We want to get all those identical questions.
Yeah.
But saying to the principals, could you share with the school committee what your rationale is for these things over and above? Like, for example, last year we had a lot of conversations about the new ELA program for elementary and how important that was and how much, yes, we were shooting for level services, but we really wanted to do this as well. So perhaps that might be a good way for the principals to kind of share what they're thinking over and above that point. The other thing that we've done for the last several years with Joe and then, Dinesh asked for it last year too, was the separation of budgets in terms of general education and special education. I want to ask you guys what your thoughts are on that. I mean, personally, to me, like we're mandated to educate every child. And so, yes, we have less flexibility when it comes to the special education budget. It's all included in all of our line items. But if you still want us to present it to you in that way, we can do that.
I mean, I understand the reasoning for separating special ed and general ed. I don't necessarily agree with it, because I think historically, people like, oh, everything goes to special ed and general ed gets nothing. That's always, you hear that argument from people that are naive to the process. And I think, we have less flexibility. So, I mean, to me, when we look at special education, it's almost that guaranteed cost. It's almost it's the have to pay. It's the have tos. When we talk about the general ed budget, that's the sometimes the wish tos and the want tos. So I mean, it gets into, I mean, I don't necessarily want to separate them because there's no funding formula that says special ed versus general ed. It's still one budget. But we need to know if we have a $50 million budget and 45 million of that is special ed, then we need to know that, we need to share that, but we don't need to drill down into, why we have to, but, we are bound by the more rules and regulations in the special ed than in the general. That's just the fact of how it's going.
In my
So I think
response,
that's why it was started. Sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I think
no.
that's why Dennis asked for that, because I think it's important for the community to know and understand that we are at the mercy of the state for all these mandates and the lack of funding from the state. No offense.
so two things tonight, Mike. A civil service requirement for substitute teachers and educational funding.
There you go.
But really, that's why it was done though. I mean,
Yeah.
honest to God, I mean, I don't think people realized, the mandates that were on us without the state backing it. So that's why Dinesh really is the one that came up with it, but, I didn't like, almost like that pitting one against the other, but that
Yes.
wasn't the intention of it. That's not why it was started to do that. It was to highlight at the state level, what's actually happening.
I mean,
And unfortunately, when you do get mandated something from the state, that special ed number continues to rise
Right.
without the funding to back it. General, we
It
don't have the
goes
money.
down.
Our general ed comes
Right.
down. So then you get, and again, I totally understand what you're saying, because like, at one point, it doesn't matter, like whether, it doesn't matter who they are, we gotta educate,
But I think
Well,
it does matter for the public to
To see,
understand that.
I think what we need to do in that, and this is just kind of my own thought, is we look at special ed as essentially what our fixed costs are. We don't label it special education, we label it as our fixed education costs, because that is not pitting. And I mean that just because I don't want it to be, because we've seen that at these meetings, people like, oh,
Yes, and I don't want it to be like that either,
I
Dan.
don't
And
want it
so
to
one
be
of the
that.
other things that we talked about last year was how there are other mandated costs for us. Like, for example, our ELL program, like for students that are non-native English, like that is another cost. And like, that's one of the things that you may see from us this year is that we need additional staffing in that area. So I mean, I'm willing to present it to the committee and we don't have to make a decision tonight. You guys can talk to Nick, email me. But I think it's important for us to make sure that whatever our dialogue is that, there are very little wants and wishes left in that budget overall.
Yeah.
So the nice to have and the wish we have have slowly gone away and there is very little wiggle room left in our budget as a whole. That's why last year we had to make those drastic cuts when we found a $3.4 million deficit. So That's ultimately what our options are.
Yeah, and I think, again, I think one of my things is by doing it by school, I'm assuming, maybe I'm not. Most of the principals have some type of committee, whether it be a few teachers, admin, whoever in the building, parent, whatever it may be, to kind of present this budget, or is it kind of just,
Budgets also go through school site councils.
got it? So like, so this is what I'm saying though, like, to me, that gives us a little bit of a groundswell from the people who are actually in these classrooms and doing it. We see it, we hear it, we now know, hey, this is what the principal's presenting for their building. We can see, you guys obviously, it's not that we don't want, I'm not saying, give me the principal's budget, we don't need you to do it. That's not what I'm saying at all.
So-
But what I want to see is by that groundswell coming up through our paras, our teachers, our, people who are, daily in these schools, you guys get your hands on it, then we can understand, okay, we understand why admin did that. We understand why principal is looking at that. I don't think we need to be into the nitty gritty of what the principals did to you guys. I just think it needs to be somewhere a little bit more. And I think by breaking down by school might be a good way. All I know is how long have we done these budgets for? Years and years and years. We kept doing them the same way. And we keep requesting 12%, we keep getting nothing. So something's got to change. We have to do something differently. If we keep doing the same thing over and over again.
And so last year in our numbers, if we had included all the principals' requests and asks and wish list items and all those things, right? Because the teachers say, I would really like this, this is a priority for us. That number would have been 16 to 18%, right? And so 12% for the level service. And so that's, we don't anticipate that number being as big, based on our initial cost box so far this year. But there's still a lot of things that are out there, but not gonna be working. So
This is something we kind of tabled tonight, because tonight was just supposed to be the timeline overview.
Yep.
Yes,
And it
for
might
sure.
be a longer conversation and have it its own agenda item, maybe in our
we
next
can certainly
meeting,
do that, yeah.
right? That we have more of this conversation.
Good call.
Absolutely.
I think we'll just keep going.
It's a big topic for us always.
I mean, it's important though, but
Mhm.
Sure. Great. Next up, update on the school start time committee.
So I have a very quick update for you guys tonight on the school start time committee. Last Friday, we sent out another survey to families and to staff, looking at 3 different options for potential start times. That survey is due this coming Friday to the group, and then our group is meeting next week to put together our recommendations to the school. So we will have recommendations for you on the agenda for, I believe it's the December 11th meeting. It will be under the committee's, conversation and thing that night for us to figure out how we want to best move forward. There are financial implications to some of these options, which I think is really important for people to know and to understand. And it also doesn't necessarily take into account any of the building council. So we're not looking at redistricting. We are simply looking at start times for now. So we will bring you a recommendation and go from there. But this has been a huge amount of work. I really want to thank the committee that has met with us, since last spring, over the summer, this fall, and the central office team who have put a lot of time and work into developing surveys, doing research, looking at comps, looking at financials, all of those things. So we're excited to bring you something. We'll see what it is. And that's it.
What, who got the surveys? I didn't get
They went out to
The
all.
newsletter.
It did go in the newsletter.
I saw.
And it was sent out, the newsletter was sent out every week,
Yeah,
other week your
newsletter.
parents were. It's right in my very first paragraph, my little superintendent's message.
We got quite a few responses too.
We are up to about 470 as of today. So that's staff and families. And then, as we know, we also have staff members that are also families. So they could, kind of select the option that like more than one.
I mean, just to highlight, obviously representing the school committee on there. But we had first survey went out. We had quite a few on that.
Mhm.
We obviously kind of got back together, whatever, and then plus an additional survey, which whatever. But now we have even more for that. So
Yeah.
like, we clearly definitely have a lot of public participation in this, which was exactly what I think everyone was kind of geared towards.
Yeah.
So. Cool. Anything else with that? Number 9, second reading of vote school choice policy update.
Okay, so this is really the same draft that you guys saw when we met the last time. You can see that all of the highlights and changes have been taken out and put in there officially. The one question we had was regarding number 6, where it talks about school choice students are able to stay until graduation, except if there is a lack of funding of the program. And I actually spoke to the Department of Education since we last met, and I said, can you please explain what that means to me? And they were like, that's a great question. And basically, it would be if there was a lack of funding at the state level. If so, school choice is part of ed reform law from 1992. This is something that was put in. My guess is to make sure that it doesn't become an unfunded mandate. So if at some point there was no reimbursement to towns for school choice, that is when our obligation.
Can we tell them 5,000 is not enough and that's?
We tell them all the time, but yes, we absolutely can tell them $5,000.
But is that a lack of funding?
No.
No. So,
It would be if they, if they would totally took it
choice is
away.
dead.
so hypothetically, no offense, our lawmakers could go in and say, hey, we're only gonna do $1,000 for school choice. If we don't have a choice.
Correct. I mean, so, no, it's not, it's, no, it's part of mass state law. So it's, the regulations are all down there, MGL 71.6, 71.6A, et cetera. So, yes, you would not have to continue to allow new students in. You would just need to retain the students that are already.
If funding was axed.
If funding was totally eliminated, you wouldn't have.
Do we know at the state level where that funding comes from? Is it earmarked from something? Because I know like some districts.
It,
No, no,
it
no,
co-
I'm
it
saying
comes
where
off the
the-
top of the cherry sheet. So,
'Cause I know like in the past, there's like
I'm sorry.
something, the tax increase goes to the MBTA or something, like, is it a funding?
No, it's just part of the general education budget.
So in that line, should we add? But except if there is lack of funding of the program by the state?
Totally agree.
Or
So
can we not?
it's, that's not what the law says.
So we can't.
So the law says lack of funding of the program, but that's the interpretation that the state law.
So we put in there Mass General Law, blah, 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 blah.
It is down.
It's already
The general law.
While we're on the subject, I think it is important to point out that Representative Howitt put in a bill last year to increase that number to $7,500, which got absolutely demolished at the state. So I don't see that money moving anywhere anytime soon.
I actually think it's an important conversation for districts like Morton, who are in that hold harmless level, where we only get the state minimum aid. So last year it was started at $30. We were fortunate enough that it went up to 104. My organization, MASS, does a huge amount of advocacy at the state level around. There are 211 districts that only get that minimum aid. So Christine and I have been, keeping abreast of all of those developments. But, school choice is another opportunity for us to bring a little bit of money as to supporters.
Because I think when it comes to the school choice argument, and we had this last year, we were downstairs, is it's not competitive with virtual high schools. Like, so to me, right off the bat, if I'm a lawmaker, it becomes an equity issue for those districts, because Norton is losing out on potentially the same money that someone could go to for a virtual high school, and it was like $2,500 for virtual high school.
I think it's actually more than that.
So the legislature has to walk a fine line, because that could become an equity issue. And if some of these districts get together and say, if this money's going to these virtual schools and you're not giving that to these other districts,
Well, and the cost to
That
run a
opens
virtual
up-
school versus the cost to run an actual district.
it opens up for some potential legal implications. That's judgment.
It's a great night to come.
Never coming back.
And then just to clarify too, this gets us all back into law. We're good to
Yes,
go.
we will be,
Don't gotta worry about-
as long as we follow this process, we will be good to go. Yes.
Great.
And you guys agreed with this timeline?
Yeah, this is much better for our office. Pam does the majority of the applications, the communication that goes out, all of those things. So we will have our discussion and vote for the 25-26 school year, probably sometime in early March.
And do we separate, maybe we did this in the past, a returning student versus a new student, are those handled any differently?
A returning student, there is no application process. They are one of our,
They just have to let us know.
yes, or they would unenroll if they're not coming. Yeah, otherwise we assume they're coming.
And I think it's also important that it's obviously better for administration. It's also, I think, for the majority of families, it's also probably.
Yes,
I mean, you're
move the
getting,
timeline up.
yeah, you move the timeline up, you know where your kids going to school, you know. rather than
Yeah,
waiting all-
it shouldn't be like a September decision.
Correct.
No family wants that.
Exactly. So.
All right,
entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second by Justine, sorry. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Thank you.
All right, next up, second reading on the vote for public participation at full committee meetings.
Okay, so the changes here are in the second paragraph, second bullet point 2, at the bottom of the first page. The chair in his or her sole discretion may grant extension of the time in extenuating circumstances. That is to the 15 minutes of public comment itself. That line also takes place on number 6, where it talks about speakers are allowed the 3 minutes. This is something that we discussed that it's important to have that in both places, so it gives whoever the chair is at the time the ability to either extend the 15 minutes or to extend the individual time as they so see fit. We also clarified the fact that this public comment is on items that are within the purview of the Morton School Committee. So that is number 5 on page 2 of the back page. Shall concern only items, include the budget, the performance of the superintendent, and the educational goals and policies of Norton Public Schools. Therefore, comments and complaints regarding school personnel, other than the superintendent, or students are generally prohibited and will not be heard during public comment. I think that is a good way for us to say that. I don't mind being raised across the coals publicly. Getting tougher skin as time goes on, but no staff member or student should have that.
I think that was my biggest concern with, when we talked about this in the last meeting, because, you know, if I don't want us as a committee, you as a superintendent, even our building leaders to be blindsided by a parent that, and I say this, not mean, a parent could just have a bad interaction one time with that teacher, and they're gonna go up, they can't be given
A
you know,
forum.
a forum to blast this person. And it's just not the right, because there is. you go
There
to
is
the
a
building
process.
leader, You go,
Yes.
you're not supplied with the building leader, you go to the superintendent. Unfortunately, a lot of times it doesn't come to us because it's not in our purview. It's a personnel matter. And the other factor is personnel matters, other than what's outlined, aren't discussed in general meetings. Those are one of the exceptions to the executive session. So I feel better about this policy once I read it than I did last week.
Great.
Comments, concerns? Entertain a motion to approve.
So.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Last thing, other business.
I just have one item. I just wanted to remind the committee and remind everyone watching at home that the C2 Foundation, in partnership with some of our other organizations in town in Norton Public Schools, is hosting a toy drive this coming Saturday, November 23rd. It'll be in the front loop of the Yale School from 9 to 1. And I think it's really important for people in the community to know that all of the donations go to actually helping Norton families in need. And we do have a number of families in town that are, needing some support during this holiday season. So if you can make the effort and make a donation, we would greatly appreciate it.
I just got one thing just from the town side, Monday, December 4th, the planning board is doing a big presentation on, the overlay district and the MBTA stuff. So again, definitely something that affects everybody in town, but certainly the schools as well. So if you are interested in doing a big,
Second,
The second or
Monday or
Wednesday?
Wednesday?
December 4th, 6 to 8.
So it's a
So it's
Wednesday evening.
Wednesday, sorry, Wednesday, thank you,
So
Peter.
it's the same
Peter.
as our meeting.
We don't have a meeting on
We
the
have,
fourth.
our next one's evening. So, I'm sorry, Wednesday, the 4th for the planning board. Thank you.
Before we adjourn.
Yep.
Can we have Karen check in with town hall and make sure we're okay to,
Pam and I are meeting with them next Tuesday.
that's the last thing I'd want us to have.
Yep.
No access or something.
Yes, we are,
or
meeting
denied of.
with, the new town clerk and the town manager and
Okay.
bringing people with us to make sure we have access to the building, make sure we can figure out all the streaming and everything else.
Because we're there next week.
We are there, we will be there on December 11th.
But I will not.
Karen will not be there on December 11th. She's going on an incredible vacation.
We'll have Vinny do the tech
Nice.
for us.
Yeah.
Then one of us will FaceTime Karen.
No, she's gonna be, where are you gonna be on the 11th? Switzerland.
Oh, that's nice.
So, midday.
Her husband's retired, so,
Oh, that's awesome.
that, you know,
I
Awesome.
actually have one more thing,
Go ahead.
CPAC's having their holiday shop on, they're doing 2 days this year, so it'll be Friday night, December 6th, and then, Saturday at LG.
thank you, Audrey.
And I know it's a couple months out, but I will not be at the January 22nd. You know when the joint meeting is? I know it's hard, isn't it?
Good call. It's around our meeting. So I believe right now we're looking at that first meeting in January. Trying to find the exact conversation. with Walter.
The eighth.
I think it's the eighth. Let me just check. It's not confirmed yet. I do know that.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
There we go. All right, so we're good as long as it's on our date, obviously. They're not gonna make the December 11th one work, so it's definitely not that one. They're talking about possibly more than likely the 8th of January, but let us see.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to have a conversation with Sandy as well, just to see. We're doing our budgets now, but we need to know what they're looking for, so we don't get blindsided. So I will work with Christine and Jen. If there's anything that FinCom and Sandy can kind of give us a little heads up on, I think would be very appreciative, so we don't have
And I think with
jammed
that,
up at the last
an
minute.
explanation of why. Because last year's request was unorthodox at best. One of the.
Yes. And again, like Jen's point, our job is to set the budget for our school. Period. We want to work with you. We want to make sure that we're being good partners, but at the end of the day, that's how it's still our.
We can't create extra work because of some of the crusaders.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
8:30.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're gonna move quicker.
I was trying to get out of here. Motion to adjourn.
Diary.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.